You know, something pretty unusual has been happening over in Nagaland this May. We're talking about the state bureaucracy.
Yeah, it involves a senior IAS officer, which is always significant, Indian Administrative Service.
Exactly. These are key people running the government, really. And this officer was suspended just recently, May 21st.
It's definitely caused a stir in Kohima, you can imagine.
Oh, absolutely. And what makes it so, well, compelling, I guess, is you've got these layers of power, serious accusations.
And what looks like, at least initially, a pretty strong response from the state government itself.
Right. It feels like it might be about more than just one person. Could, reveal things about accountability higher up.
That's what we're digging into today. The allegations are sexual harassment against this IAS officer, Reny Wilfred.
And the whole chain of events that followed. So the setting is Kohima, specifically the Investment and Development Authority of Nagaland IDAN.
Yeah, that's where he worked, and where these allegations seem to have originated. It's definitely caught the public eye.
It really shows, doesn't it, that even these big bureaucratic systems, they're not immune. There's always that risk of power being misused.
Uh-huh. So our goal here is really to unpack this. Look at the timeline, the first reports, the official reaction.
And even dig into the background of the officer involved, Reny Wilfred, to get a sense of the whole picture, the gravity of it all.
We're piecing this together from, various reports that have been tracking this story as it develops.
Okay, so let's jump right in. What was the actual spark? What kicked this whole thing off?
It seems to trace back to one specific date, February 27th, 2025.
Okay, what happened then?
That's when Abu Metha, he's the chairman of IDAN, and also an advisor to the chief minister, so quite a prominent figure.
Right.
He formally brought these allegations to the Nagaland State Commission for Women, the NSCW.
Got it. And these weren't just vague feelings, were they? The complaints were specific.
Very specific, it seems. Sexual and mental harassment. And reportedly involving multiple female employees at IDAN.
And the person accused was Reny Wilfred. He's a 2015 batch IAS officer and held the post of joint secretary there at IDAN.
Yeah, an IAS officer, just so everyone's clear, holds significant administrative power. They're key to implementing policy. It's a big deal.
Absolutely. So what did the State Commission for Women, the NSCW, do?
Well, what's striking is how fast they moved. By March 5th, so just about a week later,
Wow.
they had already recorded statements from several women working at IDAN.
That is fast. Suggests they took the initial report very seriously.
It certainly seems so. And the details that came out in those statements, they're quite disturbing.
What kind of details?
The core allegation is that Wilfred was demanding, and the term used as physical indulgence,
Right.
in return for things like salary hikes, better job opportunities, things directly tied to their work and careers.
That paints a really grim picture of potential coercion. A clear abuse of his position, if true.
It throws those power dynamics into really sharp relief, doesn't it? Offering professional advancement for sexual favor.
Yeah.
It shows just how vulnerable employees can be.
Definitely. So the NSCW gathers this information. What's the next step for them?
They clearly felt it was serious enough for immediate police attention. By March 17th, they sent a letter directly to the state's top cop, the Director General of Police.
Urging action.
Yes, urging immediate action based on what they'd found. Going straight to the DGP, that suggests they saw potential criminal offenses here, not just internal workplace issues.
Okay, so bypassing maybe the usual internal HR routes?
Potentially, yeah. It signals the perceived severity.
And then did the police act?
They did. The formal legal machinery started rolling soon after. An FIR, a first information report, which kicks off a criminal investigation, was registered.
When was that?
April 2nd, at the South Kohima Police Station.
And what were the charges?
They cited sections 74 and 75 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita. That's the BNS, the new penal code.
And those sections relate to?
Specifically, sexual harassment and actions intended to outrage the modesty of women. So, serious criminal charges.
Right. This definitely moves it out of the realm of just an internal matter.
Absolutely. It's now firmly in the hands of the legal system.
So, with an FIR registered, what happens next in terms of investigation?
Well, they didn't just assign it to a regular officer. On April 12th, they formed a special investigation team, an SIT.
Ah, an SIT. That usually means it's considered a complex or sensitive case, right?
Exactly. It was headed by a senior IPS officer, Indian Police Service, with 4 other officers assisting.
So a dedicated team.
Yeah, forming an SIT like that, especially with senior leadership, it signals that the authorities recognize the need for a focused, perhaps more robust investigation, maybe due to the seniority of the accused.
That makes sense. And then came the administrative action we mentioned at the start.
Yes, the suspension. That was issued on May 21st by the Chief Secretary of Nagaland J. Allen, effective immediately.
So Wilfred was relieved of his duties.
Both his duties. He was Secretary of the State Finance Department and Joint Secretary at IDAN, where the trouble started. He was removed from both roles pending the investigation.
It's a significant move, suspending an IAS officer.
Very significant. It sends a message that the allegations are being treated with the utmost seriousness, and it also practically prevents any potential interference in the investigation from his side.
And like we said, IAS officers, they're not just administrators. They shape policy, manage funds. There's a lot of trust placed in them.
Precisely. And when that trust is potentially broken, especially through something like sexual harassment, it really shakes public confidence in the whole system.
Now, you mentioned digging into his background. This isn't the first time Reny Wilfred has faced serious accusations, is it?
No, it's not. And this adds a really troubling layer to the current situation.
What happened before?
Well, back when he was the Deputy Commissioner of Nagaland District, this was between 2020 and 2021.
Okay.
Extremely serious allegations surfaced. He was accused of sexually assaulting 2 minor girls.
Minors? How old were they?
Reports say they were 14 and 17. And from the Kiamniunga Naga community,
And how are they connected to him?
they were reportedly working as domestic help at his official residence.
Oh, wow. That adds another dimension of power imbalance, doesn't it? Working in his home.
A huge power imbalance. And that case was investigated. The local police, the subdivisional police officer in Noklak, found the allegations credible back in July 2021.
Credible enough to proceed.
Yes, a charge sheet was filed in December 2021. This was under the POCSO Act, the Protection of Children from Sexual Offenses Act.
Which is specifically for crimes against children. What were the specific charges?
Aggravated sexual assault and sexual harassment, according to the reports. Really serious charges under POCSO.
And what happened with that case? Did it go to trial?
It's been legally complex. Wilfred challenged the charges, and the matter actually went all the way up to the Supreme Court.
The Supreme Court, what did they rule?
In June 2023, the Supreme Court put a stay on the criminal trial itself, a temporary halt.
So the trial stopped.
The trial stopped, but the court also directed Wilfred to keep participating in the proceedings via video conferencing. So the case wasn't dismissed. It remained active.
Okay. So where is that case now? Is the trial still on hold?
The trial's actually ongoing now in Tuensang, and apparently a lot of witnesses have already testified.
How many?
The figure mentioned is 34 out of 50 prosecution witnesses have already given their deposition in court.
So it's very much an active, ongoing case with significant evidence being presented.
Seems that way, yes.
But Wilfred himself has apparently said something different about that case.
Yeah, there were reports quoting him as saying the matters were settled between the parties involved.
Settled. But the trial is ongoing. That doesn't quite add up.
Exactly. And counterclaims in the legal filings reportedly accuse Wilfred of perjury, of deliberately and willfully committing perjury, lying under oath.
So, a flat contradiction there, claiming settlement versus accusations of lying about it in court filings while the trial continues.
It definitely complicates his narrative.
So, when you put these past allegations, the POCSO charges, the ongoing trial, alongside the current allegations at IDAN,
It becomes very hard not to see a potential pattern, or at least raise serious questions about a pattern of behavior.
it certainly provides crucial context for the current investigation, doesn't it?
Absolutely. While every case needs to be judged on its own merits and evidence, you can be sure the investigators looking into the IDAN allegations are aware of this history.
Now, Wilfred didn't just stay quiet while all this was breaking, did he? He held a press conference.
You did, yeah. April 9th, 2025,
Right.
at the Nagaland Secretariat.
And what was his defense? Did he deny the harassment allegations directly?
Interestingly, his main thrust wasn't a direct denial of the specific incidents. Instead, he claimed it was all a conspiracy.
A conspiracy against him.
Yes. He framed the sexual harassment charges as a plot to fix him, stemming from something that happened years ago.
Okay, that's unexpected. What was the supposed reason for this conspiracy?
He claimed it dates back to 2016-2017, when he says he refused to help in a plot to topple the Naga people's front government that was in power then.
Wow. So he's linking current harassment charges to alleged political maneuvering almost a decade ago.
That's his claim. He said that when he was an assistant deputy commissioner in Kohima, a top police official approached him,
And asked him to do what?
asked for financial and technical assistance to destabilize the government. Wilfred says he refused.
And he believes that's why he's facing these charges now, years later.
That's the connection he drew in his press conference. He implied this is payback for his refusal back then.
How did the Nagaland police respond to that particular claim about being approached by a top official for a plot?
The Director General of Police, Rupan Sharma, basically shut it down. He called Wilfred's claims irrelevant to the current case.
Meaning the alleged conspiracy has nothing to do with the harassment investigation.
Pretty much. Sharma stated those past political events, alleged or otherwise, are separate from the facts being investigated regarding the IDAN complaints.
Okay. Did Wilfred offer any other defense? Anything more procedural?
He did raise a point about procedure. He argued the complaints should have first gone through IDAN's Internal Complaints Committee, the ICC.
Ah, the internal mechanism for handling workplace harassment. Is that a valid point?
In principle, yes.
Yeah.
Often, that's the first port of call. The ICC is mandated for many workplaces to provide that internal route.
But there's always a but, isn't there?
Well, yeah. Couple things. First, reports suggest the ICC at IDAN might have only been formed after Abu Metha had already taken the complaint to the State Commission for Women.
Ah, so the mechanism might not have even been fully in place when the complaint was first raised?
Possibly. And second, remember the NSCW called the allegations extremely alarming when they wrote to the police.
Right.
That level of severity could be seen as justifying bypassing the internal step and going straight to law enforcement. The NSCW clearly felt it warranted immediate police attention.
So the authorities likely felt the nature of the allegations trumped the usual procedure.
Okay. Now, there was another group that got involved publicly, wasn't there? The Naga Students Federation.
Yes, the NSF, a very influential student body in Nagaland. They weighed in quite strongly.
What did they do?
On April 15th, they submitted a memorandum directly to the Chief Secretary, J. Allen.
And what was their demand?
Immediate suspension of Reny Wilfred. This was before the official suspension on May 21st, mind you.
Okay, so they were pushing for it earlier. What was their reasoning?
They argued that letting him stay in his post while facing these serious allegations sent a dangerous message.
Undermining morale, eroding trust.
Exactly. Especially for women employees. They felt it damaged public trust in the administration's integrity, and they explicitly warned against any attempts to shield him or influence the investigation.
They sound like they were quite forceful in their statement.
Very. They didn't pull any punches. They stated, Wilfred has, and I quote, repeatedly exhibited a pattern of inappropriate behavior, directly referencing the past allegations as well then.
Clearly, their intervention really highlighted the public pressure and the demand for accountability, especially given the history involved.
Okay, let's step back a bit then. Thinking about the bigger picture, why does this case resonate so much? It's one officer, albeit senior, in one State Department.
Well, it touches on those core issues of trust in government, doesn't it?
Yeah.
IAS officers, as we've said, have huge responsibilities. Policy, public money representing the government.
Right.
So when someone at that level faces allegations like this, it inevitably makes people question the system itself, the standards, the oversight.
And you also have the bravery aspect. The women at IDAN who came forward, that can't have been easy.
Not at all. It takes immense courage to speak out against someone in a position of power, especially in a workplace setting where your career could be on the line.
Absolutely. Their actions deserve recognition.
Definitely. And it highlights those power dynamics again, how difficult it can be to challenge authority, even when misconduct occurs. You have to think about the pressure they must have felt.
Yeah. And while workplace harassment is sadly universal, like you said, the stakes here feel particularly high because it's a senior government official in Nagaland under intense scrutiny.
Exactly. It becomes a real test case, in a way. Can the institutions in Nagaland ensure accountability, even at this level? Can they deliver justice?
And that's playing out against this backdrop of competing narratives, Wilfred's conspiracy claim versus the weight of the allegations and his past record.
And we do have some initial findings from the police side. There was a preliminary inquiry led by a DSP, Kay Luciona.
What did that preliminary inquiry find?
It reportedly found that multiple female employees at IDAN described facing frequent intimidation from Wilfred.
Intimidation? How?
Including being summoned at odd hours, outside normal work times, supposedly for work reasons.
That finding seems to lend weight to the complaints, doesn't it?
It certainly adds to the picture being built by the investigation.
So bringing us up to the present day, May 22nd, what's the absolute latest status?
Okay, so the SIT investigation is very much active and ongoing. There's a lot of public focus on what they'll find.
And Wilfred himself?
He remains suspended from his duties.
Yeah.
The final outcome? That's still uncertain. Criminal charges, reinstatement. some other administrative action we don't know yet.
And that unresolved POCSO case is still hanging over him, too.
Exactly. That adds another significant layer of legal complexity for him.
It feels like this is a real moment for Nagaland, then. A chance to set a precedent.
It really is.
Yeah.
A chance to demonstrate a strong commitment to accountability, to show that workplace harassment won't be tolerated no matter who is involved.
Yeah. The handling of this case, the final resolution, it will definitely send a message.
For public trust, for employee confidence, for anyone who might face similar abuse in the future, it carries a lot of weight.
So just to wrap up the key points, we have these serious sexual harassment allegations against a senior IAS officer, Reny Wilfred, at IDAN in Nagaland.
Prompting swift action from the State Commission for Women, an FIR, the formation of an SIT, and ultimately his suspension.
We've also touched upon the troubling context of previous, very serious POCSO allegations against him from his time in Nagaland District, which are still part of an ongoing trial.
And his defense, which hinges on this claim of a political conspiracy dating back years, a claim dismissed by the police as irrelevant to the current case.
Plus, the significant public reaction, notably from the Naga Students Federation, demanding accountability.
And as we've really unpacked, the importance of this goes way beyond just one individual. It's about power dynamics in the workplace.
Workplace safety, equity.
And that fundamental need for public trust in the institutions that govern us.
So as this all continues to develop, it really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? What does a case like this tell us about the real challenges of getting accountability, getting justice, when you're dealing with these hierarchical systems, these power imbalances?
And maybe, what's the role of all of us? Public awareness, public scrutiny. How much does that actually help in ensuring fairness and, importantly, preventing this kind of abuse of power from happening again?
Yeah, definitely something to keep reflecting on as we watch how the situation unfolds.